right now. Good morning. It's a beautiful day at the Shoe. How do you do? And welcome to the Football Fever. I'm Dave Holmes, joined as always by Obi Stillwell, Kellyanne Stitz. Back in the studio, we have Ben Buchanan and Jay Richardson. We'll get to them in just a minute. But first things first, Obi, if you like old school football, well, that team in the black and gold is going to bring it today at the Shoe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even on the defensive side, I was going to bring some serious defensive. Higgins, you look at Jay Higgins, linebacker, that is actually came up under the tutelage of Campbell, who actually won the Buckeyes Award in 2022. So it's going to be interesting what type of defensive front they bring against the Buckeyes today.
You know, Kellyanne, the last couple of years, one of the stories has been toughness, competitive stamina. It always comes down to that last weekend in November. But this is a good litmus test, a good time to test the toughness early in the season.
I was just about to say the physicality that I was going to come in and bring today is a really good test for the Buckeyes, especially ahead of Oregon next week. And I talked to a lot of the guys at the Woody on Wednesday, and they agreed with that. They're like, this is a really good test to test our toughness, something that they focused on in the offseason heading into this year. So this should be a good matchup with Iowa today.
Ryan Day's faced this team twice before, once as a head coach 2 years ago in this building. The Buckeyes won that game via blowout. And then there was the ugly one up in Iowa when Urban Meyer was the head coach, in which the Hawkeyes upset Ohio State. But Ryan Day says it doesn't matter. Year after year, player after player, this is the same old Iowa team.
You know, this is a challenge for all of us. This is a very good team. They play physical. You guys know who they are. They have not changed their identity in a long time, and they have very, very good coaches and physical players, a veteran team. So, you know, we're going to get challenged in a lot of areas, and this is challenging our whole building.
You know, we talked in the open about old school football, Obi. So you have Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, a two-headed monster. Iowa has a one-headed monster in Caleb Johnson. They think they have the best running back on the field today.
You know what? Watching him play, he reminds me of a mix between Travion and Quinshon. He's a one-step, one-cut runner. He likes to run over the guys. He's 6'1", 225 pounds. He's a very physical back, and he has the speed. So I think we're going to see some things, but I think surprisingly, the defensive star on Ohio State's side will be Caleb Downs, chasing him down, bringing those linebackers up, and having Caleb make those tackles. But that's going to be a task for 6'1", 225-pound running back.
Yeah, you see the stats there on the screen, 685 yards. He's second in the nation right now. So the hype is real when it comes to Caleb Johnson. Now, he grew up just outside Cincinnati and Hamilton. You would think he'd want to be a Buckeye, but let's listen to what Caleb had to say. That could not be more far from the truth.
It's Ohio State. I want to beat them. So I feel like even if they offered me, I wouldn't have went, because I feel like I want to beat them. So it's not like a team thing that I want to be with them. I want to beat them.
Oh, them's fighting words, Kellyanne. Okay, so he said he didn't want to be a Buckeye. Maybe it's sour grapes. Maybe he's authentic. We don't really know. You talked to some of the guys this week. What did the Buckeye players have to say about that soundbite?
Yeah, well, I want to say this too. Caleb Johnson went on to say that I don't want to be a part of the top dogs. I want to beat the top dogs. That's his mentality coming into the Shoe today. And not that these Buckeyes need any bulletin board material. They are highly motivated. Ryan Day commented on that. He had a response. It was very nice. He's like, we are proud of the guys from Ohio that go on to play good football. We don't want to play against the good players. They're preparing for his challenge coming out of the offensive backfield. But the guys in the Woody, like Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimola, they're like, yeah, we heard the comments, but they gave him respect. You know, game respects game. They're like, yeah, he's really good. We're going to be prepared for a tough test against him. They don't want to give up any of those long runs coming off of their game against Michigan State. I mean, looking at the defense, they had 2 slow starts. Jim Knowles held himself accountable for that. But they held Sparty to less than 50 rushing yards. But again, they're not looking to give up any of those big plays to Caleb Johnson, because he will make you pay for that.
Yeah. What, do you buy it? Do you buy what he's saying?
I mean, he said what he was supposed to say. Right?
Okay,
I mean, that's what you're supposed to say. But he's a talented running back. He's averaging 11 yards per carry. He's a brick house. I think he will actually shine a little bit. But, you know, when you start coming into the horseshoe saying things like that, he might not break 100. He might not break 100.
All right, well, that'll do it for now here for us at the Shoe. Let's go back to the studio. Ben Buchanan and Jay Richardson. What do you think, guys? Caleb Johnson, never wanted to be a Buckeye to begin with.
We'll talk about it. We'll have. I'm sure my guy has some thoughts here. All right, thanks, Dave. Ben Buchanan here in studio with former Buckeye Jay Richardson. Welcome to another week of the Football Fever. Jay, let's get right to it. Those are some big words. Let's put it there from Caleb Johnson. Your thoughts, authentic or not here?
You know, Ben, everybody handles rejection differently.
Oh.
You know, and it's almost like, being in school and you want to go, shoot your shot at the cute girl and she shoots you down and you're like, she wasn't that cute anyway. And that's kind of what Caleb's going through here. The reality of it is, had he been offered by Ohio State, he would have ended up back in the portal and somewhere like Iowa anyway, because we've got 3 running backs that are tops in the entire country that could have started for any school in the country, and that's just kind of how it is, kiddo. I like Caleb Johnson, don't get me wrong, because on the football field, the kid is an absolute difference maker. You're talking about a kid that is second in the country in rush yards right now with 685 rush yards, and that's actually coming off a bye week.
Wow.
So hasn't had an extra week to gather those yards. Fantastic player, but don't give this Buckeye defense bulletin board material. They already are hyped up. They already think this is the most important game of the season thus far.
Sure.
And I'll tell you a little bit later why they think this game might be even more important than next week's game. But I don't want to hear about the kid saying he didn't want to come to Ohio. Of course you wanted to come to Ohio State.
I would have to agree with you. Dublin guy, Westerville guy right here. You grow up in the shadow of the horseshoe, man. You know you want to be an Ohio State Buckeye, right? So we'll just leave it at that. As we know, last week Will Howard left the game after the end of a drive after a big hit versus Sparty. But in his absence, our guy Devin Brown answered the call. Jay, we haven't seen much of Brown in his 3 years with the Buckeyes, but it has to be reassuring to know this. He can step up for his team when it matters here.
Yeah, you see Will there get a little shaken up, and Devin Brown comes in. By the way, a kid who throws a beautiful deep ball. I think Devin Brown throws as good a deep ball as any guy we've had here in a while. And he comes right in, goes 3 or 4, 31 yards and a touchdown. And you'll see the one-hander that he threw to Jeremiah, which was fantastic. But it's always great to have a stable of guys at a position. As Jim Tressel used to say, you need a pair and a spare.
That's right.
Right?
So
you got to have a pair of ballers at every position and a spare guy that can come in and be effective. Devin Brown can very much so be effective. Me and Ben were discussing, man, imagine if preparation for that bowl game, and in that bowl game back in January, Devin Brown would have not got banged up and put out a fantastic performance. The whole outlook for his career could have been different. Maybe he goes in the portal because now he's been able to show what he can do. But either way, he's a fantastic second to have on this football team.
Yeah, seizing opportunity and obviously dodging the injury bug. I think that's one thing that maybe Devin Brown has had some trouble with through the years. You can see.
Toughest thing to do in the sport.
Obviously, Will Howard is a senior, so he will not be returning next year. That leaves a crowded quarterback room in Columbus. You obviously have Devin Brown, the highly touted Aaron Noland, as well as Alabama transfer Julian Sayin. And next year, Ohio State will see the addition of one of the best players in the class of 2025 and Tavian St. Clair. So, Jay, it's still very early here, but what do you think the plan is at quarterback, and how does Devin Brown fit into this formula?
Man, that is a great question, and that's going to be tough for the Ohio State Buckeye, offensive staff to really nail down what they want to do. Obviously, you're going to have Will taken off after this season, then you're going to have Devin back, and then you got Tavian St. Clair, who is coming in as maybe one of the most touted guys since Dylan Raiola, who is in Nebraska. So you've got so much talent. You got Aaron Noland, and then you got Julian Sayin, the transfer from Alabama, who, from what I see at practice, is getting a lot of those 2 and 3 reps. So it seems to me like what they're trying to do is kind of prep Sayin to maybe be that guy. But I'll tell you this, I also like what I see out of Aaron Noland.
Yeah.
I see him make some fantastic throws in practice. I see him coming along. He's a guy that they think down the road can develop into somebody very, very special. I don't know how much time he'll have to have that development, because every single season Ohio State just reloads at every single position, it seems like. But quarterback, wide receiver seem to be the biggest ones that they're going to be loaded at. I don't know what they're going to do, but I got a feeling things are gearing towards Julian Sayin right now. If I had to gauge it just based on what I see at practice.
That's an interesting take. It's a spoil of riches at Ohio State, and that is a good problem to have, my friend. Now, this deep quarterback room means there's a major sense of the next man up mentality with the team. Simply put, when your number is called, you have to deliver. Jay, looking at your career, when did you have to embody that next man up mindset to get the job done when your number was called?
Happened a few times in my career. Once at Ohio State, sophomore year, we have a guy go down. I was backing up Simon Frazier and kind of rotating with him. He goes down, has an injury in the middle of, I think, Marshall game it was. I come in, get a sack, feeling good, ended up, kind of being a starter for the rest of that season. I had a blast. Happened again my rookie season. I started 12 games my rookie year for the Oakland Raiders. I wasn't supposed to start coming out of the gate, right? We had Derek Burgess, who was a Pro Bowl, all-pro amazing player. He had a calf strain, goes down against Detroit. they tossed me in the fire, performed well, and end up, kind of holding that job for the rest of the season. But it just goes to show you never know when your opportunity is going to come. And this isn't just in football. This is in life. Let me get philosophical
no doubt,
for a second. You don't know when your opportunity is going to come. But if you're ready all the time and you're preparing as if you're going to be the guy, one day you're going to be the guy.
When those great moments meet great opportunity, right? That's what they say. That's where great things happen. We've got a next man up mentality here on the Football Fever as well. When Jay and I are done in studio, up steps Dave, Kellyanne, and Obi. They're live at Ohio Stadium this morning, guys.
When I think about Next Man Up, this is the 10-year anniversary of the ultimate Next Man Up. When Braxton Miller got injured, then J.T. Barrett was Next Man Up. He got hurt against Michigan. Cardale Jones was Next Man Up. And speaking of Braxton Miller, this is the 10-year anniversary of that championship team. Last night, Braxton was one of 14 former athletes at Ohio State to go into the Hall of Fame, and I talked to Braxton about that mindset. Big night, Braxton Miller joining the Hall of Fame. Looks good. I like the fit. What do you think of this jacket?
Man, it looks sharp, man. I feel kind of special. I'm going to keep this definitely on the front of my closet for different occasions.
This is a special year for you, Hall of Fame, but also the 10-year anniversary of the national championship team. I know that year marred by the injury, but when you look back, special teams, special players on that team.
Of course, all the guys that's, still playing to this day, man, they still special to me. We still keep in contact all the time. And then be able to go out there and showcase our talents in the first year of college football playoff. I mean, that's what you expect from Ohio State, so we did it.
I know when we're talking about next man up mentality this week on the Football Fever, that was certainly true when you went out. Also how you got the job, right? I mean, Joe Bauserman, you weren't the starter originally. You earned your way into the role. The role of a backup quarterback, what is that like, knowing that you're always one snap away from carrying this franchise?
Well, you always got to prepare like you're the starter at all times. Walk in the facility like you're the starter. And be a leader in all portions and the things that goes on while prepping as, looking at the starter as well. So, I mean, it's great, watching how Coach Meyer, all the coaches prep. I think all the quarterbacks should follow suit and follow what the coaches are doing. So act like you're a starter anyways.
I'll get you out on this one. Hall of Fame night's about reminiscing. Now that you've been away from it, memories, things you look back on fondly at Ohio State.
Of course, man. I mean, just going to practice hanging on my guys, man, that was like the funnest possible, experience that I had, especially going out there on Saturdays and showcasing our talents and stuff like that. But like hanging with my boys after school, a long day, then hanging out in the locker room and having fun, going out to dinner, playing the games and all that stuff. That's what it's really all about, camaraderie and brotherhood, man. So,
congratulations, Braxton. Thanks so much. Congratulations to Braxton and the 13 other Hall of Famers last night. So, Obi, the next man up mindset. What's it like when you're on the sideline? 1 minute you're just laughing with your buddy, holding your helmet. The next minute, that helmet's on your head and you're running out there.
Yeah, you know what? The first time I ever experienced that was at an Illinois game. Tito Paul actually couldn't find his helmet, and we had to go out on punt return, and then they just started screaming Obi, Obi, and I had my helmet on. They're like, get out there, and then he got ripped for not having his helmet that was set somewhere else. So there's many ways that you can be the next man up. That just happened to be one of mine.
Yeah, and Kellyanne, when you look at it, at Ohio State, there's so much talent. You also have to keep the job of being next man up because there's always someone really talented right behind you.
Right, it's a blessing and a curse for Ohio State, right? Yeah. But looking even at this season, they've had that next man up mentality adopted early on. They lost Donovan Jackson, Cody Simon for the first game. Sonny Styles had to shift over. And then as well, just a couple other injuries as well. Tyleik Williams. Yeah. But all of those guys behind them did step up, and they were able to create and build depth early on, which is going to be important throughout the season. Of course, we saw Devin Brown coming and throwing that touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith after Will Howard went out. So that next man up mentality is important, and these guys, they stay ready. They practice and they prepare as if they are the starter in case something happens.
And the coaches know who's ready. The coaches can look on the sidelines and say, hey, they're staying within the game. They're paying attention to the calls. They know what's going on. And sometimes you get into the game just strictly off of staying focused and locked in.
Obi, did you make the most of your opportunity when you had that?
Of course I did.
Of course he did. I shouldn't even ask the question.
Well, depth is something you need, and you hope you never have to use it, but it's a physical game as we go back to Ben and Jay. Guys, depth so important, and Ohio State feels good about their depth today against the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, next man up. It's a culture that Ryan Day has brought and continued here at Ohio State. All right, thanks, guys. As the saying goes, defense wins championships. This guy likes that right there. Buckeyes are certainly going to need that today. How they're looking to be more aggressive to stop a punishing Iowa ground game. Plus, he had his breakout game against Iowa, and now he's back from Olentangy to Ohio State and now to the Atlanta Falcons. We sit down with former defensive lineman Zack Harrison to get his take on the Silver Bullets. You're watching the Football Fever live from Columbus.
This countdown to kickoff is sponsored by Division 7 Roofing.
And welcome back to the Football Fever. We're taking you live to the shoe where in just a few hours the Buckeyes will do battle with the Iowa Hawkeyes. And speaking of the defense, time now for the Atlas Butler defensive checkup. Now, as we mentioned earlier, stopping the run game is going to be a must for the Buckeyes defense today. Jay, how do you think Jim Knowles and his guys have been preparing for this matchup?
Well, I think they understand that this Iowa team is tough on both sides of the ball like we know, but it's going to be kind of a one-dimensional matchup. What they do is ground and pound, man. I mean, if this was MMA, you're going to spend a lot of time on the mat, so you better get in the trenches. This is a game for the big boys up front, the front seven for Ohio State, but most specifically the linebackers for Ohio State. And here's what I mean. Last week against Michigan State, Ohio State held them to under 50 yards rushing, 47 for Michigan State, which is fantastic up front. And I call it more the Caleb Downs game. I mean, he was coming downhill, led the team in tackles, had tackles for loss. He needs that same kind of energy, but Sonny Styles and these linebackers, Cody Simon, they have got to be able to step up, have free reign to run through holes when they see them, because Iowa is going to continue to hit the ground stuff. The best passes that they're going to have come through the air on play actions, and they're going to use the tight ends, and that is when Sonny and some of these linebackers have to have great eye control. They have to read their keys. You cannot play too close to the line of scrimmage and then get beat on a play action. So in order to keep your eyes settled and locked in, you've got to destroy the run on first and second down. If I'm Ohio State and I'm Jim Knowles, this is a very, very important game to get my team ready for the rest of this season, because this offense, as far as the ground game and as far as the one-dimensional personality they have, is very similar to that team up north. And this is classic Kirk Ferentz. They're going to have to grind it out, and they're going to have to keep their eye on those tight ends. Former all everything Jim Lachey, right?
Yeah.
His son Luke Lachey is the
Tight end today.
We've
Yep.
had him on the show when I was doing the high school show. This kid is like 6'6", 260 pounds. I mean, a big old tight end. He's going to be putting his hands on guys and then getting out for those routes, second on the team in receiving. So you've got to have all of your keys read defensively and stop the run first.
Yeah, discipline and aggressive, right? Two words we need to
Aggressive,
key into today. Iowa is tough on both sides of the football. Offensively, their run game continues to produce, and defensively, they've given up very little on the ground as well as through the air. Facts both coaches and players are not taking lightly.
They know exactly what all 11 guys' skill sets are and what are required for them to execute the defense that they deploy each week. They are fundamentally sound. I think they're really, really well coached. It'll be the best coached defense I think that we'll face.
They're tough. They're physical, and they're very gap sound. I think they do good job at what they do. But those are all the traits that we have. We want to be tough. We want to be physical, and I think that's our game as well. So this will be a good a test to see where we are at this point in the season. This is the games that we kind of come here for, these physical matchups.
Jay, you were at practice this week. They echoed this as well?
You know what was interesting about what I come in to practice thinking, you know, hey guys, we got Iowa this week, that's great, but everyone knows next week is the big one in Oregon. And a lot of the coaches said, no, this is the big one. A lot of them believe that Iowa is maybe a better test for them than Oregon. And that's not to put any bulletin board material out there for Oregon. What they're saying is the way this team is assembled is going to really stress their defense, going to really stress their offense, and really be a huge challenge for them. And they're preparing like it. So I love that because that means that they're not going to fall into the trap of looking to next week and getting ready for that big matchup out west. Yep. And they're locked in on Iowa right now. And Iowa's no joke at 3-1, beating up on Minnesota. And Minnesota really came within a bad kickoff call of beating that team up north. So you're looking at a really important matchup for the Buckeyes this week.
Yeah, great analysis there as always. All right, now for more on the defense, let's send things out to our Dave Holmes and the rest of the Fever crew, who's joined by a very special guest. Dave?
That's right. We're here with the pride of Olentangy, 5-star recruit, Zack Harrison, now a member of the Atlanta Falcons as a defensive lineman. First off, at home, yes, you are correct. He is just as tall sitting down as Kellyanne is standing up. We're not going to get that out in the open. All right, so Zack, I want to ask you first off, Thursday night, your Falcons come from behind, OT thriller. A win over the Bucks had to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a crazy game, you know, especially going to overtime, walk-off touchdown, man. It was fun, man. The locker room after the game was fun, so it was a good win.
Yeah.
When you look behind the curtain here on set for you, Zack, what was that celebration in the locker room like?
It was crazy. I mean, Red came in the locker room with throwing water bottles on him and everything, just celebrating. You know, kind of felt like college, and everybody's so excited for everybody to succeed. So you know, we win together. You know, it's fun. Speaking
of college, the last time the Hawkeyes were here at the stadium, you had quite the game. A strip sack, 2 tackles for loss, deflected a pass. You were all over the Hawkeyes. Kind of a breakout for you game, Zack. What was your favorite memories from that one?
Probably the strip sack, definitely.
Yeah.
That was definitely fun. You know, just you know, accumulation of a lot of hard work at practice. You know, just making plays. You know, just coming out and showing in the shoe.
You know, it's funny because Zack was looking down at your notes like, yeah, that was me. That was me. Hey, so let me ask you this: if you knew then, all right, playing college football, what you know now being in the NFL, what would that be? What was that one thing that you know now that you didn't know then?
It's crazy. I have so much more knowledge, even just 2 years in the NFL than I did in college. But if I had half of that knowledge in college, it would have been a whole different story. Just, you know, the attention to detail all the coaches have and the film study and all that kind of stuff, just it's a whole nother level at the professional level because it's your job now. So
yeah.
I love that you have the mini buy now. You stop by the set live for us. That's so kind of you. I'm curious, how much do you guys carry your colors into the NFL? Like, okay, so last week when Ohio State beats Michigan State, you've got Kirk Cousins, your quarterback. He's a Spartan. I mean, are you guys talking trash about the, hey, Kirk, we got you last week? How's that work?
Most definitely. I definitely rep the scarlet and gray in the locker room whenever I get a chance to. You know, I'm always talking about the Buckeyes, saying we'll beat every team in the country, every game, anytime. So, you know, it's definitely fun, you know, talk to Kirk a little bit. You know, he was kind of doing his own thing. I was just talking his ear off, but it was fun.
Yeah. Well, Zack, appreciate you stopping by the set for us. One of the best players in high school history here in the state of Ohio, Zack Harrison, now a member of the Atlanta Falcons. Coming up next, we're going to talk about another guy who came to Ohio State with a ton of hype, Jeremiah Smith. Is he having the best season of any freshman in Ohio State history? We'll go back in the history books and take a look at where he ranks.
All right, time now for another G&J Pepsi fantastic photo of the week. Dane here is showing that it's never too early to start rooting for the Buckeyes. That's too cute. Hopefully the love for Scarlet and Gray continues well into adulthood right there. Remember to send us your photos of how you're watching our Buckeyes by going to chime in on the ABC6 app, and we look forward to seeing you there. That was an especially cute one,
Actually,
I must say.
Baby. Some of y'all babies be looking crazy.
Oh, man. Now to the Football Fever Best Trivia in the Land, sponsored by Parlay Sporting Club and Kitchen. This week's question is, lock in here. Here we go.
Oh, come on.
Who did Ryan Day replace as the head coach of the Buckeyes? Was it Luke Fickell, Urban Meyer, or Jim Tressel? That's a tough one. Might stump you there.
This is getting ridiculous, folks.
Simply scan the QR code on your screen and answer the question correctly, and you could win a $100 gift card to Parlay Sporting Club and Kitchen to enjoy some of this amazing food you're seeing right now. Looks pretty good. All right, much more to come here on the Football Fever. We already teased talking about the amazing freshman phenom that is Jeremiah Smith, but does he have a shot at a historic Heisman win? We look at the odds in just 3 minutes. Stay with us.
Defense. Will Howard throws a nice ball. He is 16 and now going deep for Smith, who makes the catch inside the 20. That guy could be playing on Sundays tomorrow.
Well, we just can't stop talking about the freshman phenom that is Jeremiah Smith. He stands at 6'3", 215 pounds. He's simply too fast and too physical for opposing DBs, and many say he has all the traits to dominate soon on Sunday. There's simply no doubt that JJ's putting up an impressive season so far, made even more impressive by the fact that he's still only a freshman. Unbelievable. Now, it's not often a true freshman grabs headlines at Ohio State, though. Arguably the greatest Buckeye of all time is the famous Archie Griffin, who had a solid performance his freshman season. He rushed for 772 yards, but only found the end zone 3 times on his way to a Rose Bowl appearance in 1972. Very good, but not necessarily the electric output you may have expected. Fast forward now to the year 2002, and Maurice Clarett had the season all freshmen hope to replicate. 1,237 yards, 18 touchdowns, and that year's national championship to conclude an incredible season. And yes, that's correct, all that was completed as a freshman. That brings us back to Jeremiah Smith now. Jay, through the first 4 games, JJ has 19 receptions for 364 yards, 5 touchdowns. Do you think he's on pace to become the greatest freshman the Buckeyes have ever seen? That's a big ask.
That is a big ask. Listen, he's definitely on pace to become the greatest freshman wide receiver maybe the game has seen. I don't know about greatest freshman because that number 13 you just brought up, that kid ended his season with the national championship. So he's got an opportunity, but what he's going to be doing just the rest of this season and what he's done so far this season is remarkable. I think this combination of size, speed, physicality, and hands. He has all the soft skills. People talk so much about his physical skill set and being able to kind of run past guys and sometimes through guys, but they don't talk enough about his catch radius and the things he can do when the ball is in the air. He is actually extremely talented. Kudos to Brian Hartline. I'm at practice watching, and I mean, he's coaching him up on all those little finer details of the game, and the kid understands the route tree. He's been running routes since he was a little one. There are clips of him at 8, 9 years old, I mean, going through every single route. This is something he's worked for, and it's no surprise. It's not just a physical talent. He has it up here, too.
No doubt. You hear those terms 50-50 balls, right? With him, it seems like it's more like an 80-20 or a 90-10. I mean, if it's in the radius, as you mentioned, he's going to get it.
Put it anywhere around him, he's going to get the football. But I got to say, when you talk about his personality versus Maurice Clarett, let's say, Maurice was wired a little bit different. You're talking about a kid that was constantly challenging all of the older guys, constantly challenging the defense, talking crazy during practice. You know, when you see Jeremiah, he's more calm and reserved. He lets his game do the talking. He doesn't feel like he needs to be the personality of the team. He just kind of goes with the flow. His talent speaks for itself. Maurice was a little bit nutty.
Maurice the Beast, that's what he was known as. I remember that well in 2002. Now, despite those impressive numbers, Jeremiah Smith is not currently in Heisman contention. Currently, 4 players with the best odds are as follows: Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe, Colorado's dual threat athlete Travis Hunter, Miami's cool, calm, and collected Cam Ward, and finally the bruising back from Boise State, Ashton Jeanty. Jay, by the end of the season, does Jeremiah Smith have a shot at making the trip to New York for the Heisman ceremony?
That's a great question. I think it all depends on Will Howard. If Will Howard can continue to progress in his passing ability, his passing game, I know Chip Kelly's going to dial up the right calls. I know Ryan Day is going to have this offense rocking. But if Will Howard can continue to lead this offense and they continue to stack wins, and you find Ohio State right there in the thick of things, coming off of that big game up north, well, then yes, I think he will definitely be in contention. But I got to say, what Travis Hunter's doing in Colorado, you know, playing over 100 snaps a game, playing wide receiver and cornerback, and playing them both at an extremely high level, that is rare stuff. We haven't seen that kind of stuff since, I don't know, maybe Chris Gamble.
I was going to say, your guy, Chris Gamble. That's
another Buckeye.
Pretty good comparison right there.
Very
All
much
right,
so.
now for more on the beginning of a potentially historic season for the freshman wide receiver, let's send things out to Dave Kellyanne and Obi. Guys.
Yeah, it is hard to make it to New York City as a freshman, especially as a receiver, but he's so good. Obi, what impresses you most about Jeremiah Smith? I mean, he's only in month 2 of his college career.
Yeah, you know what? I think the most impressive thing is that he knows his body. I mean, he's 6'4", 215 pounds. Most of the time, Kellyanne, people say, hey, he's still growing into his body, right? He's still a little awkward or what have you. He's not awkward at all. He has the feet, he has the hand-eye coordination, and he has the mentality. I believe that they set him up, if you will, from the time that his junior year hit in high school, started talking about you're going to be a starter, right, at Ohio State. And by the time his senior year came, he was very comfortable with that conversation. By the time he got here and was on campus, he already knew what it was. But I think you had mentioned it while we were off air, Emeka Egbuka, and what role he's playing in Jeremiah Smith's debut, if you will, his I'd say his takeover actually.
Development too.
Yeah, his development, his takeover of the excitement of this game at wide receiver. So I'm excited to see that. But you know, this kid is he has the mental and the physical aspect of that, and that's rare. That's rare, especially on offense. Defense is a little different. It's a little easier, I think, as a freshman to come in. But on offense, man, it takes a little something different.
You know, we were talking earlier in the show, if you're just joining us here on the Football Fever, we talked with Zack Harrison, former Buckeye defensive end, now with the Falcons. Kellyanne, he said something to us during commercial break that was very interesting about the way NFL players are already viewing Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, just 4 games in, Jeremiah Smith is putting the Big Ten on notice, the college football world on notice, and the league on notice. I'm sure general managers in the NFL are sad that he has to stay for 2 more years. Yeah. But he's already generating a lot of talk in the NFL. We talked to Zach, and I asked him, like, hey, is anybody taking notice of Jeremiah Smith? It's hard not to. And he was like, yeah, when I came in actually for preseason, the guys were asking me about, hey, what's up with JJ? Have you seen JJ? And honestly, Zack Harrison was like, I don't know much about Jeremiah Smith at the time. He does now. So he reached out to Ohio State, talked to Coach Mick, and Coach Mick kind of gave him a look like, hey, yeah, he's the real deal, even as a freshman. And of course, since then, he's produced, he's shown that, and Zach's like, yeah, he's the real deal too.
Yeah, he is that guy. Well, coming up next here on the Football Fever, we're going to talk to former All-American Jim Lachey, who's always in the broadcast booth on the radio team. But today, Jim has an assignment unlike any other in his career. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Football Fever. Every week, former Ohio State All-American Jim Lachey calls games in the radio booth for the Ohio State Sports Radio Network. But this week, Jim's assignment hits really close to home.
Samuel cuts it back. Ohio State wins.
The most dramatic finish in the history of the game. Tens of thousands of fans stormed the field, and somewhere in that sea of people is Grandview native Luke Lachey.
My brother and I stormed the field after that. It was cool.
Luke is the son of former Ohio State All-American Jim Lachey, so he grew up around the Buckeyes.
This is a stadium where he was in a parking lot for so many years, throwing the football around, sitting in the seats, watching so many games.
And now it's the stadium where Luke will play on Saturday as a team captain for the Iowa Hawkeyes.
It's a cool feeling to be able to go out there in different colors and swarm out there with my brothers, and it'll be a lot of fun. We're excited for the opportunity.
That opportunity to play against your hometown team is rare, and the opportunity for his father is even more rare. To be on the broadcast team, calling your son's game in the stadium where you yourself were an All-American.
Oh, it's an honor. I mean, there's not many opportunities you get to do that.
You're supposed to be objective in the broadcast booth. Can you be objective when it's your son on the field?
I'll be happy if he makes some nice plays. Certainly, that's a moment. But no, it is. It is going to be kind of a fine line. The good thing about it, I've watched so much Iowa tape over the last 5 years that I know these guys pretty well. So preparation this week was a little bit less intense than it is normally.
Luke says his Iowa teammates have given him extra tickets this week for his friends and family, but he plans on sharing one special moment, not with anyone in the stands, but with the man in the broadcast booth.
It'll be cool. I'll probably take a moment, look up at the press box where my dad's sitting, and everyone that he works with, and it'll be cool to see that and just take it all in.
From storming the field as a kid to playing on it as a man, this Saturday is going to be one to remember for the Lachey family.
We're both excited for it. He's got a job to do, and I know he'll do great, and I'm sure he's excited to be able to watch me play.
I know you normally want the Buckeyes to win. Are you rooting for a tie?
That would be great. Overtime, right?
And apparently the Lachey family has already arrived. Obi, you ran into him a few moments ago.
Yeah, you know what? I ran into his mother, Ann Lachey, and Jim. And you know what? Ann just said, I just want him to come out healthy and have a good game. Just like a mom. She said, I saw in one interview, she said, I leave the blocking and the football stuff up to Jim.
Yeah, mom wants him to be healthy and dad wants you to score a touchdown, Kelly. Right. That's how it works. So what do you think Luke's feeling coming back to his hometown stadium?
I'm sure he's excited, and Luke has yet to find the end zone this season, so I'm sure to score one here at the Shoe would be pretty exciting for him and the entire family. And I will say this, he hasn't taken the Caleb Johnson approach to returning to his home state today. Kudos to him for that.
Well, coming up next on the Football Fever, we take a look at the best traditions in college football. Ohio State likes to dot the I. Iowa, up in their home stadium at Kinnick, likes to wave to the Children's Hospital. We're going to analyze our favorite college football traditions next on the Football Fever.
It's time for one of the coolest traditions in all of college football. Started back in 2017 as everybody here turns and waves to the Children's Hospital behind the stadium. This is awesome.
To the kids and their families watching the game.
Waving to the kids of the Iowa Children's Hospital, the Sooner Schooner, the ringing of the cowbells and the Seminole Chop, they all help change the atmosphere in college football and become one of those special traditions for this truly special game that we all know and love. But they're not our favorites here on The Football Fever. Jay and I decided to have a little fun this morning and share our favorite college football traditions. Jay, what's your pick, my man?
It was tough. You know, I saw the Sooners wagon there. I remember when that thing tipped over.
It was a little tipsy recently.
That's a funny one. There's a lot of great traditions, but one I just, I wanted to be a little outside the box.
Okay.
Don't get mad at me, Buckeye fans, because it's not my favorite tradition. It's one I think is really cool. You ever watch USC games, man?
Oh, yeah.
And you get, it's like a scene out of Gladiator.
Right
you get my
behind you
man
there. Yeah.
coming out, I don't know if he's on a horse or not, and he just sprints out and then slams this big old sword into the middle of the field and starts yelling and screaming. I don't know about you, but that kind of gives me the chills. I love the idea of it feeling like a battle and this guy leading things out there with a sword. Kind of a cool moment. So I got to go with the USC sword slam.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Buckeye, but I could see you, man, 6'6", going out there as a Trojan and planting that sword. That'd be pretty intimidating, pretty impressive. Listen, Buckeye Nation, I got to go with what we know, Script, Ohio. And I'm not just saying that just because to be a fan favorite. I remember going to games, man, as a young boy in middle school, watching the band come out, doing the Script, Ohio. You know, when we were Buckeyes, you miss out on the band when you're a player, right? You're in there, you're taking care of business. So to be able to go to a game, we're doing this obviously, maybe once a year, getting out to a game. Love watching the band. Appreciate what they do for the atmosphere.
Best damn band in the land. And Script, Ohio is extremely cool.
Pretty impressive. And who gets to dot the I? I mean, what an honor it is.
No one else does that.
Yeah, pretty impressive. All right, let's send things out to Dave, Kellyanne, and Obi now. Team, what are your favorite college football traditions?
Yeah, for me, it's Penn State's wideout. I mean, I've been to, I think, 3 or 4 of them, and we're on the field in the fourth quarter. You're screaming at the person next to you, and you can't hear. Penn State at noon is Dr. Jekyll, but Penn State at night turns into Mr. Hyde. They are another beast. So for me, a Penn State wideout is the craziest atmosphere in college football. Obi, how about you?
I have to go with Wisconsin. Being on the sidelines of that game, and then at the fourth quarter, I believe it's fourth quarter, they do the jump around, and you're just kind of standing there. You're like, hold on, man, I'm not with this. And then all of a sudden, you're like, jump around.
Came into it.
Yeah, you can't help it. So Wisconsin jump around for sure.
I remember Urban Meyer once said he would take his headset off one ear for 20 seconds just to hear jump around and go right back to work. Kellyanne, what's yours?
It's hard not to buy into the music, right? Jump around. So I'm going to go with Ohio State. There's a tradition that when the players are entering the stadium, one of the longtime Red coach, Doug Malone, he hands out Buckeyes with handwritten messages. It's a tradition that his father, Ron, started back in 2005, and it's become a family tradition for the Malone family. His daughters now help write the handwritten messages. And Ryan Day may have done this in the past, but something that I've noticed this year is that then, after the guys enter the stadium, he goes to young Ohio State fans in the crowd and hands them the Buckeyes. So it's been something that's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
Also, I was torn on my traditions of going to Ohio State and then kind of dipping into the SEC, guys. I will have to admit, I loved Tennessee's game days.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. See,
she double dipped. She double dipped.
Listen, doing the Vol walk down Payne Manning Pass with thousands of fans there. They tailgate on the river, Vol Navy, and then the running through the Power T, the formations, the fireworks, the pageantry in the SEC. It was fun.
Kellyanne, you had it right with the Buckeye. It's an election year. Play to your home base in an election year. Hey, we talked all about these favorite traditions. If you want to hear more about this conversation, make sure you download the Buckeye Fever podcast. I talked with Tim May of Let It Monroe. He's covered this team for 40 years. We talked all about our favorite college football traditions. Download the Buckeye Fever podcast. But we still have a little more to get to here on the Football Fever. Coming up next, final thoughts and our Hyundai keys to the game. Stay with us.
Waking up every morning, blessed to see another day. Tell your family you love them. Say it every day. Make your time with them memorable and unforgettable. Growth is optional, but change is inevitable. So, show them love all the time. As you continue to grow, don't have them wondering how you feel. Make sure you let them know.
Our thoughts of the week from Ohio State assistant coach Tim Walton. Obi, so much of this football team is about brotherhood, culture, and love.
Yeah, you know, absolutely. And Tim sends me his what and his why on those videos every week. And he talked a little bit about just really getting back to the basics of knowing and realizing that family is the reason why you're here. The family is the reason why you have these opportunities. And I think he said that the season goes by so fast, right? Especially for some of the upperclassmen, that he tries to find each week ways to ground them, to make sure that they smell the roses, if you will.
Yeah, and Kellyanne, it's possible for a bet against the Iowa Hawkeyes. My first one is ball hawks. Little play on word there. You have to hunt down Caleb Johnson. He says, I never wanted to be a Buckeye. You know what? Make him hope that he never has to come back ever again. Number 2, walk the line. I'm talking both interior lines. This Iowa team, number 2 in the nation against the run. Quinshawn and Travion look good, but can they look good against an elite run defense? And 3, present day. You got to stay here. Look, Oregon did their job last night. The Ducks got to 5-0. The Buckeyes can get to 5-0. Take care of your business today and set up that showdown next week in Eugene, Oregon. It's been a great morning out here at the Shoe Guys. For Obi Stillwell and Kellyanne Stitz, I'm Dave Holmes. We are done. We're going to go inside and catch a football game here in a few hours. Let's go back to you.
Great stuff, guys. Jay, final thoughts going in. Ohio State, Iowa, 3:30 today.
Yeah, big-time game. I always look at these games, every game leading up to the game, as preparation and what can this team work on and get better at week to week. Things Ohio State can work on this week is offensive line versus a fantastic front seven for Iowa. Can this Buckeye offensive line move bodies today? Can they get traction and really create and show that amazing running offense versus a top-tier defense? If that's the case, they're going to be great at the end of this season. And then second, keep the penalties down. Last week, still ahead of Michigan State in penalties, 4-2. Let's have a week where Ohio State does not have more penalties than the opposition.
I feel like I've heard that somewhere before. No penalties. My thought, just stay healthy, right? Win the football game. Obviously, we know there's a big one the next week. Don't look ahead, and I think we're going to have a special season to come. All right, that'll do it for us here on the Football Fever. It's the Buckeyes and the Hawkeyes that kick off at 3:30 over on CBS. Remember to join us at 11 for the Football Fever post-game show with reaction from the Buckeye players and our head coach, Ryan Day. Enjoy the game, everyone, and go Bucks.
Go Bucks.